Hey, welcome to my journey into another weigh-in. We are in the car because we are leaving the NICU. And I don't feel like going home and setting up a tripod and sitting in my room and talking, so you know what? We talk a lot in the car these days anyway, so I figure y'all mind. I just got in the car and I knew I was going to do this, and I was in the parking deck coming down, and I remembered I didn't look up to see all my numbers for my weight. All I do know is I weigh 201 point something, and I lost 0.6, and it still has me over 175, so I'm good. Might as well call that a maintain, but whatever. Ain't nothing changed. It just happens. So I know one thing: I'm tap dancing all over Wonderland. It's crazy. I need to quit talking about it and quit getting excited about it, because I'm jinxing it. That's what I'm doing. I'm jinxing it. So anyway, had the doctor's appointment this morning. Just follow up. That went well. And then I come from there over to see the baby. And now I put a picture. The nurse, she said, okay, let's take a picture, because that one nurse, he's had her before. She is excellent about taking pictures, send them to the parents. She does all the artwork that they put on their beds. She comes around. She did today. She did last time she had him. She made a tiny turkey picture. This time she did his feet. She was making a Christmas tree and a reindeer. That's her thing. I said, have you always done this? She said, I've been here 29 years, and all but like the first couple, because you're settling into your new job, getting your routine. So that's her thing. She has a whole like little art bag she brings and everything. So I think it's cool. But he was gonna come home this week. They had hoped Friday. Well, today. And actually they were hoping maybe Thursday, but Friday, right? Well, he had a episode of bradycardia, which means his heart slowed down to the point where it shouldn't have slowed down, and it happened when he was spitting up. Well, they say 3 days from that day. It's another 3 days before you can go home. Well, that would have made it Saturday. Well, it happened again the next day, I think, and they have put he can't have any more. He was drinking 100 milliliters, slurping it up. And they said he can have 90, and then they want you to sit him up for a half hour after he eats. They said it's common for them to have that happen when they're spitting up, but if they had it happen when they were sleeping, they said, now that's a whole different story. She said that's a mandatory 7-day stay after that. So at least it's the kind that's, we'll say, normal. So the doctor came by while I was there today, and she said, okay, just like I told Mom and Dad, she said, if everything goes well, if everything stays the same, if he's doing okay, he can come home Sunday. So y'all pray that everything stays with that baby and he gets to come home Sunday. Monday's his due date. Isn't that something? But I tell you, I found out today where they moved him again. They've moved him so many times. The little boy he's beside of now, I saw on his crib's right there where I was sitting with. I started calling him Jacob. I call him everything. He was born June 29th, and he's still in there. And the nurse, she was not Jacob, not Sebastian. She was Wesley's nurse one other time, and I see her when I'm in. You meet these nurses, and they just treat you like family. They just do. And so she was in there. He was in a little pod with just 4 kids, and she was doing a set of twins and the little boy, and then the other nurse was doing Jacob and some. She said, well, did you see the Christmas tree down there? I said, no. She said, one of the little girls said she's been in 8 months, and said her primary care doctor bought her the Christmas tree. Her primary care nurse, she said, you can have a primary nurse in here wherever that baby goes, I go. So the baby, she was with that little boy, she said, wherever he goes, I go. She had clothes. They do all kind of things for this little baby. And she said, I said, well, I asked her, they don't give you detailed health information, so they're not breaking any kind of HIPAA laws or nothing like that. It was just like, I said, well, if she's been in here 8 months, does she have much longer to go? She said, oh, she's going to have a while. She said, it's not just that. She said, there's social things involved. So y'all need to put that little, I don't know what her name is. Just say, little girl in Presbyterian NICU, and put her on your prayer list, because it sounds like there's a lot that needs to be prayed for. And I do know what needs to be prayed for the little boy. I found out from RJ, because they were talking in front of him, and he needs prayers, and his name is Mosiah. So add him to your prayer list and give good thoughts and vibes for them. Well, all the little babies in there need it. These are just 2 that I know, you know what I mean? And of course my baby. But let me turn that down. It is cold out here today, y'all. It is cold. But you know, I told you I fell. Let me just tell you, my neck, these muscles right here, these little tender, I can feel that right there. These little tender muscles right here, it's not my lymph nodes, it's the muscles like around them, I guess. They are so sore to the touch, because when I fell, my legs, my butt, my back, my neck, my head, everything crashed on the ramp. And so it, I guess, is a whiplash effect or something. These things are so tender and sore. Well, that next day, my left butt, I told you, it was sore. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. Well, now it's moved, and my back hurts. It just added to that. Now it has moved from my butt down to my calf on my left leg. Do you know what it feels like? It feels like somebody took a ball bat and beat my calf to death. I'm limping. It hurts so bad. So I'm telling you what, when I come out this morning, I had this coat on. I put my energy drink, which, by the way, I'm doing Orange Kiss. I put my energy drink in this pocket, my keys and my phone in this pocket, so I could be sure and hold on to both of the rails. And when I come out, it was raining, so I knew it wasn't wet. Because, listen, I'm gun shy now. But that was something. I was recalling, and I've told y'all this before, I was recalling the time, how many years back, at my heaviest, I fell in the bathroom. I had got a tooth removed, and I had been put on anesthesia because I have a terrible fear, and if they were going to have to take it out, they were going to put me to sleep because I have a terrible fear of the dentist. Terrible. And I didn't realize I had taken my medicine, and I took it again, and it was too soon. So I have a lot of medications that make me drowsy, and so I doubled up on these medications, and I went to the bathroom, and I sat there for 45 minutes because I remember what time I went to the bathroom, and I remember what time it was when I got up. So when I woke up, it had been 45 minutes, and I stood up, not thinking, and my legs were dead. My legs were dead because just sitting on the toilet, just sitting, cut 100% of the circulation out of my legs. They were dead. So as soon as I stood up and went straight, just like a tree, just like that one. It was a backwards tree. This was a forwards tree, and hit my forehead on the tub. I still have, I told y'all before, I still have a little dent right there in my head. Right there, I have a dent. I call it Frankenhead. I got a Frankenhead. And me and David were talking about that when I fell. I said, just think, when you got me up that other time. He said, yep. I said, it was pure adrenaline, because I'm telling you, I was pushing 4. And he was in the bed because it was during the day. He heard me, and he ran by to the kitchen because he thought I fell in the kitchen. Then he realized I was in the bathroom, and I couldn't stand up because I couldn't use my legs. And he looked at me. He said, "Oh, honey." He said, "Oh," he goes, "Oh, honey." I said, "What?" He goes, "We're going to the hospital." He said there was a goose egg on my head that was just like boom. I said, "I can't get." I'm crying. I'm like, "I can't get up." He reached down. He got me up under my armpits and just went whoosh. Like I was some kind of rag doll, like there was no weight to me whatsoever. I said that had to be pure T adrenaline to deadlift me off the ground. And then of course he had to drag me because I couldn't feel my legs, but it was something. I said, yeah, just imagine if with your wrist, if you had to pick that up, what you just did, because he pulled me, and the ramp was so slicky, my butt just slid down to the end. See, I didn't know how to get up. because I couldn't move on the wood because it was all slicky, and I didn't want to waddle around in the mud trying to get up. So I called him on my phone. I said, honey, I said, come out here and get me up off the porch, the back porch. Even though it's not really a porch, it's a small porch with a ramp. We just call it the porch. He said, oh no. So he came out there. I said, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to do this? How am I going to get out? So he held out and grabbed me. And when he did, I started to stand up and my butt just slid to the end, right? So then I'm standing, I got my feet in the mud, grass, whatever, and he just pulled. And he pulled me up. I told him, I said, honey, I said, I don't know how you did that. He said, sometimes you just have to do something and just not think about it. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. So the doctor asked me today, she said, now, have you had any falls? I said, well, I actually have. I said, but, she said, well, do you want me to list it or not? Because I told her what had happened. I said, it was a slick porch. I said, and I fell. She said, well, do you want me to list that you had a fall or not? I said, no, because it was not, I lost my balance or anything against my physical self to be, because I am a fall risk. Every time I go to the hospital, they give me a fall risk bracelet because I used to fall. I said, no, don't put that one down because that was totally a slick porch. So we didn't have to, we didn't mention that one. But she was asking me about, and they do all kind of questions at her place. Like, do I have, my kids have any, like, rights to, who's going to decide my health, who's going to decide my finances, if anything would happen that I couldn't. She said, I know you got your husband down there. She said, but it helps if you have your kids, you know, and you have it in writing. She said, it don't really count if it's not in writing. And she told me about her uncle. I'll tell you that. And I said, well, me and David talk all the time. We need an estate planner. We need, like, things that if we're live, how far do you want us to go to save your life? You know, we need financial planning, we need a will, we need all that, and we talk about it all the time and we never do it. We just never get around to doing it. But she said her uncle was dead set, you were not gonna, if something happened to him, you're gonna let him go. He was fine with it. He had a DNR on his records at the hospital, but he didn't have it in writing for the family. So they fought the DNR, and he lay there for 6 months until he passed. I said, oh my gosh, that totally went against his wishes. She said it did. She said, but he didn't have it written down for them. I said, oh no, that's not good. So, but I'll tell you one thing, it is not easy to be the one to make the decision, because David had to do it for his sister. He knew there was only one answer. There was only one way to handle it, but it still killed him having to do it. That is not something that, because there was nothing in writing for her. He just had to decide what would be best for her. So I can see how, if you have it in writing that yes, you do want to be resuscitated, or you do not, that having it in writing, they have to follow your wishes, and that takes the burden off of them. Well, it wouldn't take the burden off of you, but to a point, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, we talked about all kinds of stuff there. She had a doctor shadowing her. She's just actually shadowing to see if she likes the place to come work there. I told her, I said, well, if you don't like working here, you wouldn't like working nowhere. And I was bragging on my doctor and everybody that worked there, and the doctor has that software that she puts on her phone that listens to everything you said, and it translates it and puts it in her notes, so she don't have to do all that typing, and that nobody has to transcribe it and type it. And she said, oh, and I got it all on my thing. And she said, I promise I didn't tell her to say that. I said, my husband, I said, now doctor, she will hawk you. You got problems, she's gonna be on top of them. I'm telling you what, she makes you come see her. She will get on you about this, that, and the other. And I like that because I know she cares about me and my health. David, he only has to go to the doctor unless he gets sick, and then God forbid he has to go then, 2 times a year to get his medicine. He gets 6 months worth of medicine each time. So he goes 2 times a year, and he thinks that's too much. Too much. He has moaned and groaned about that ever since he's been doing it. I'm like, honey, shut up. If you went to the doctor as much as I went to the doctor, you would never make it. So twice a year, that's too much for a man. But, ooh, that's not as cold as it was. It's a little bit sour. But if I started calling him Jacob, if Wesley comes home Sunday, I will have just spent my last day in the NICU. Listen, I never did tell you, when you go in, you have a routine. You have to check in, and then like grandparents, like I have a grandparent code. I give them my grandparent code, unless they know you, which you just tell them the name and they just look at you and buzz you in. You know, if it's somebody new, they'll ask you the code. The other ones, they know you. I mean, you go 4 times a week for 6 weeks, they know you. And but when you go in, they have this machine. It's just like attached to the wall, and it's got 2 holes that you put your hands down in, and it's got some kind of germ killing something, and they twirl and spray water, and it's cold when it first starts, and it sprays water and germ killer all over your hands. And I tell you, I laugh about it because your hands and arms get wetter than I think you get in the shower. It's crazy. So you have to do that, and then they have this little machine, it looks like a toaster oven. You have to put your phone in it and turn it, lock it, and hit the button, for it cleans your phone, I suppose. But you can take anything else in you want to take in. As long as your hands are clean, your phones are clean, you can take anything else in there you want to take in there. It does not matter. I don't know what it is about the phone, unless there's just so many germs on a phone as opposed to other things. I don't know. But that's what you have to do. But yeah, they moved him. Did I tell you? No. Where he's at now, when I was there Wednesday, they had moved him from the place he'd been at for a good little bit. And then I went today, I went around there, and the little girl sitting there, I said, where's Wesley? She said, what's his last name? She said, oh, he's back here in the rainforest. I said, oh, he's been back there before. I said, any particular reason he went back? She said, no, just for assignments. So they moved these babies. I don't know why they don't just leave them where they're at, and just whoever gets assigned, you know, I don't know. But they moved him, and he was apparently there last night too, RJ told me, but he didn't tell me until today. So, but he just slept on me, and he loves to cuddle. Oh, he's a little cuddle bug. Golly, he's a little cuddle bug. So that's what you do with the NICU. I will say, I've been so happy with the care he's been given. The one nurse in there, she said, you know, some of these girls in here, she said, I could mother them because my children are older than them. She said, they'll come in and I'll say, well, have you ever changed a diaper? Nope, never, not one. She says, well, get ready because you're fixing to change a lot. So you think about these new little nurses coming out of school, coming into the NICU, never have tended to a baby. Isn't that wild? I think it's wild. It looks to me like they would have a baby class in nursing school, because even if you're not in NICU, you might be at a doctor's office where there's babies, or a hospital where there's babies, you know? I'm not saying they don't have one. I'm just saying you could have a diaper changing class, you know what I mean? Definitely get a swaddling class. I learned that. I got it. He was kind of out of it, you know, when I left, out of his little blanket. And yeah, get on over, I'll let you. And so when I laid him down, I unwrapped him and swallowed him all back up good and tight. He just kept on sleeping, But the nurse told me, she said, they tell Holly and RJ this, they tell me this, that he has the best disposition. The nurse today, she said, if all my little babies were as good as him, they say he's the sweetest thing, he has the best disposition. She said he don't cry unless he needs his diaper changed or he's hungry. He got that shot Wednesday, and he didn't even cry. He barely made a grunt. Barely even made a grunt. So he's a good baby. Now, he got mad when she was doing his feet, but I think it's because his clothes are dirty. I brought his clothes home to wash. And they'll just put like little shirts on where their little legs are naked. That's one thing now, he will cry. He don't like to be naked. No, he don't like to be naked. So I think just having him unwrapped was getting on his nerves. She reached over, she got his passy, and it was lunchtime too, so he was fussing because of that. That's why she waited to do his stamping his feet right at lunchtime, so waking him up, she could get both accomplished. Well, I mean, I fed him, but you know what I mean. And she put that passy in there, and he started sucking on it. When he realized there wasn't that in it, he said, spit it right out. But he ate all his milk today. Never would burp for me, but I sat there, like I said, I held him up so he wouldn't spit up, and he never did spit up. And he just slept the whole rest of the time I was there. That's what he does. You sit there and hold him, he sleeps. So he's a good baby. I'm trying to think, was there something else I was going to tell y'all? I did do a bonus thrifting yesterday because Jacob and Holly and Nathan, they're all sick. They got sick up in Illinois. Jacob's getting over his, and Holly, she's still in the throes of hers. And so they weren't coming yesterday. Well, I loaded up all my stuff to donate to C-Van, and I said, well, when I unload it, I'm going to go in the shop. Oh, I hit a jackpot and a half, and I'm not even going to tell you what it is. I teased you on that video when I was talking. I said, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to make you wait till I get home and haul it. But that won't be up till Monday. And I will tell you this before we get through. I done told you, but I'll tell you again. I'm joining the Vlogmas collab with Joan and Sandy and Edie on Sunday. It's a Christmas holiday treat. And so I am joining that. I'm not doing Vlogmas every day, but they have some collabs that I'm going to join in with them. So you can come along and see that. It's a good snack. It's a good snack. Hadn't made it in years. When you see it, you'll be like, oh, I remember that. I remember that. I don't even know what made it pop into my head, but it did. I'm like, well, that's what I'm making. So you'll have to tune in Sunday to see what that is. So I'm thinking there ain't nothing else I got to tell you. So before I just start droning on about nothing, I will just say that's all I got to say. And I will see you tomorrow for Mini Planet Grocery Haul.